Rain pours over New York, blurring the city lights in a shimmering veil of water. Alexander Hart, a commanding single-dad millionaire, steps out from a lavish tower, his eyes concealing a shadowed past. Can a man like him, draped in luxury, hide the truth forever? From the darkness, a silent figure watches. Poised for the moment, everything unravels. Tonight, fate guides him to Emma Lane, a mysterious woman whose gaze holds untold stories. A destined encounter will shift their worlds, unveiling secrets that will stop your heart. Follow along to uncover this gripping tale of love and mystery. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the truth behind the glittering facade of a single-dad millionaire and the woman who enters his life. The sky darkens over Manhattan, the city lights twinkling like stars beneath Alexander Hart's feet. From his opulent penthouse, he stands still, his pensive gaze sweeping the horizon. A single-dad millionaire in his 40s, Alexander has built a financial empire with razor-sharp wit and irresistible charm. But tonight, his heart feels hollow. A messy breakup with a Hollywood starlet still haunts him, fueling frenzied media speculation about the next woman by his side. The pressure weighs heavily as the annual charity gala, where billionaires and reporters converge, looms just hours away. He needs a companion, not just to appear, but to outshine every prying glance. In the warm glow of the room, the clear laughter of Lily, Alexander's 6-year-old daughter, rings out. The little girl, with golden hair and bright eyes, scribbles drawings at the dining table. "Daddy, where are you going tonight?" Lily asks, her voice innocent. Alexander smiles, his heart warming yet tinged with sadness. As a single-dad millionaire, he strives to carve out time for Lily, but work and the spotlight never relent. "I'm going to a party, but I'll be back soon, sweetheart," he replies, gently stroking her hair. Yet he knows tonight is more than just a gala. He craves something different, a spark to shatter the monotony of his days. Stepping out of the building, Manhattan's icy air engulfs him. Alexander, in a perfectly tailored suit, strides along the bustling sidewalk. The hurried crowd brushes past, but his eyes catch on a dim street corner. There, a woman stands quietly, wrapped in a worn, tattered coat. Emma Lane, with disheveled hair and piercing eyes, seems detached from the throng. Something about her, a quiet resilience, a beauty unmarred by pretense, holds Alexander captive. Without overthinking, he approaches, his polished leather shoes clicking on the pavement. Emma looks up, her gaze wary. Alexander offers a slight smile, his voice steady yet sincere. "I'm sorry, I have an unusual proposition," he begins. "I need a companion for an event tonight. You'd be paid $5,000. Are you interested?" Emma blinks, suspicion clear in her eyes. "You want me, a stranger from the street, to be your date?" she asks, her voice trembling but sharp. Alexander nods, his eyes never leaving hers. "You seem remarkable. It'll be an evening to remember." For a moment, Emma clutches her coat tighter, turning away, muttering that she wants no part in a rich man's game. But Alexander persists. "I know it sounds crazy, but I promise it's real. Just a few hours," he says, his tone more earnest. Emma pauses, glancing over her shoulder. Her eyes probe, as if trying to read his intentions. "Why me?" she asks, her voice low but firm. Alexander shrugs, a faint smile flickering. "Because I see something in you I don't find in my world." After a long, heavy silence, Emma takes a deep breath, her eyes still wary. "Fine," she murmurs, almost disbelieving herself. Alexander extends his hand. "Alexander Hart," he introduces. Emma hesitates, then shakes it, her hand cold but steady. "Emma," she says, offering nothing more. Soon, Emma sits in Alexander's sleek black car, the leather interior and soft lighting making her uneasy. She glances around, her hands clenched, as if afraid of being lost in this alien world. The car stops at an upscale boutique where stylists await. Emma frowns, turning to Alexander. "What are we doing here?" she asks, her voice laced with confusion. "If you're to be my date, you need to look the part," he replies, his smile gentle yet purposeful. Before she can protest, the stylists whisk her inside, their skilled hands setting to work. In the dressing room, Emma sits before a mirror, her eyes heavy with sorrow. Years of hardship have left marks on her face, yet her natural beauty shines through. The stylists select an emerald gown, clinging to her frame, accentuating her graceful yet resilient presence. When she steps out, Alexander catches his breath. Emma isn't just beautiful, she's a perfect blend of elegance and vulnerability, a rarity in his glittering world. "You look stunning," he says, his voice sincere. Emma glances at him, her cheeks faintly flushed, but she quickly regains her guarded edge. "Let's get this over with," she replies, her tone soft but resolute. They arrive at the gala, a dazzling space aglow with chandeliers and the gentle strains of classical music. Alexander places a hand at Emma's back, guiding her inside, sensing dozens of eyes turning their way. Emma grips his arm, her anxiety palpable. "Everyone's staring," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "Let them stare," Alexander replies, his smile reassuring. "Just be yourself." Whispers ripple through the crowd, curiosity swirling about the mysterious woman beside the renowned single-dad millionaire. Marcus, an old friend and media mogul, approaches, his sharp eyes scanning Emma. "Alexander, I didn't expect you to have a new companion," Marcus says, his tone laced with insinuation. Emma turns slightly, her eyes flickering with unease. As the evening unfolds, Emma begins to relax. She engages with guests, her rare sincerity standing out amidst the superficial chatter. At one moment, she speaks to a group, her voice soft yet compelling. Sometimes, those who've faced the greatest hardships have the strongest hearts. Alexander listens, a wave of admiration rising within him. Emma is unlike anyone he's met, authentic in a way that makes him forget the masks of high society. But as she turns away, her eyes catch a business card on the table, nameless, bearing only a handwritten note. "Don't trust appearances." Emma picks it up, her heart quickening, as if an unseen secret lies in wait. Emma Lane stands in an upscale boutique, her eyes drifting over racks of shimmering gowns. Just hours ago, she was shivering on a Manhattan sidewalk. Now, she's swept into the dazzling world of Alexander Hart, a captivating single-dad millionaire. Stylists swarm around her, their deft hands tailoring an emerald gown that clings to her frame. Emma gazes at her reflection, her heart trembling. Her natural beauty, once dimmed by years of hardship, now radiates, yet her eyes brim with caution. She doesn't belong here, and she knows it. But Alexander saw something in her, and it's the sincerity in his gaze that convinced her to step into this game. Alexander waits outside, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. As a single-dad millionaire, he's accustomed to perfection, but tonight, he yearns for something truer than the glittering galas. When Emma emerges, he catches his breath. The gown accentuates her graceful poise, but it's her resilient yet fragile eyes that hold him captive. "You're truly remarkable," he says, his voice low but warm. Emma glances at him, her cheeks faintly flushed, but she quickly regains her guarded edge. "I'm just doing what you paid for," she replies, her tone soft but sharp. Alexander smiles, sensing the challenge in her words. There's something about Emma, a raw honesty untainted by pretense, that makes him want to know her more. They arrive at the gala, the ballroom's grandeur halting Emma in her tracks. Chandeliers gleam like stars, and classical music floats gently in the air. Guests in extravagant attire exchange polished smiles. Alexander rests a hand lightly at Emma's back, guiding her inside, feeling the tension in her every move. "They're staring at me," she whispers, her voice barely audible, her hands clenching. "They're staring because you stand out," Alexander replies, his smile reassuring. "Just be yourself." His words, earnest and steady, prompt Emma to take a deep breath, trying to relax. She's unaccustomed to scrutinizing gazes, but Alexander's strong, calm presence anchors her. As they mingle with the crowd, Emma finds her rhythm. She engages guests, not with flowery words, but with rare authenticity. In one group, as a guest boasts about a new investment, Emma offers a faint smile and says, "Money can buy many things, but not integrity." Her words, sharp yet unaggressive, surprise the listeners, and Alexander feels a surge of admiration. He's never met anyone like her, a woman untouched by the allure of high society, yet shining in her own right. They move through the ballroom. Alexander finds himself captivated by every moment with Emma. She shares a childhood tale of dreaming to be an artist, her voice soft but laced with sorrow. "But life has a way of breaking dreams," she says, her gaze drifting distant. Alexander listens, his heart aching. As a single-dad millionaire, he knows loss, albeit differently. He wants to ask more, to understand what shaped the woman before him, but her eyes seem to raise an invisible wall. In a quiet moment by the banquet table, Emma suddenly turns to him. "You know, I once met a millionaire dad like you," she says, her voice low and cryptic. "That man thought money could fix everything, but he was wrong." Her words, though gentle, stop Alexander cold. There's something in her tone, a bitterness, an unrevealed secret that unsettles him. "Who are you talking about?" he asks, his voice quiet but pointed. Emma smiles, but the smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Just an old story," she replies, turning away, leaving Alexander with a flood of questions. They continue mingling, but Alexander can't shake the sense that Emma is hiding something. She laughs, she speaks, but her eyes occasionally scan the room, as if searching or fleeing something. An elderly guest, adorned with a sparkling diamond necklace, draws Emma into a conversation about charity. Emma responds with intelligence and sincerity, recounting hardships she's witnessed. "Sometimes those who've lost everything have the biggest hearts," she says, her voice soft but weighty. Alexander, standing beside her, can't help but admire her. Sure, she's not just a woman he impulsively invited, she's an enigma, one he's compelled to unravel. As they sit for dinner, Alexander notices Emma growing more at ease. She shares a story of helping a lost child reunite with their mother, her voice brimming with warmth. Alexander smiles, picturing her in that moment, strong yet tender. He opens up about Lily, his young daughter, and how she brings him joy even on the darkest days. "As a single dad millionaire, I thought I had everything, but Lily is what matters most," he says, his voice deep and warm. Emma looks at him, her gaze softening, as if seeing him beyond his wealth for the first time. But the tender moment shatters. As a waiter passes, Emma accidentally knocks over her wine glass, and while bending to pick it up, she spots the mysterious business card from earlier, now under the table. She retrieves it, her heart pounding. The handwritten note, "Don't trust appearances," pierces her mind. Alexander notices the shift in her expression. "Is something wrong?" he asks, his voice tinged with concern. Emma clutches the card, her eyes flickering over him, filled with doubt. "It's nothing," she replies, but her voice trembles, as if she's touched a secret that could change everything. The evening presses on, but Alexander can't dispel the feeling that Emma is keeping a part of herself in the shadows. They dance, their bodies close, and in that moment, he feels a connection deeper than anything he's known. But as the music ends, Emma steps back, her eyes rebuilding that wall. "Thank you for tonight," she says, her voice soft but distant. Alexander nods, his heart racing, not just from attraction, but from the question swelling within. Who is Emma Lane, and why do her words about a millionaire dad make him feel like he's teetering on the edge of a precipice? The Manhattan Gala stretches past midnight, the ballroom's sparkle tinged with the weariness of forced smiles. Alexander Hart, a magnetic single-dad millionaire, guides Emma Lane away from the crowd, seeking the seclusion of a private lounge where dim light and velvet chairs create an intimate haven. Emma, her natural beauty radiant in an emerald gown, walks beside him, but her eyes betray a flicker of unease. The mysterious business card, inscribed with "Don't trust appearances," remains clutched in her hand, and the cryptic text, "You've gone too far, guys," on her phone sets her heart racing. Alexander, captivated by Emma's sincerity, senses an invisible divide between them, as if she's concealing a vital piece of her story. They settle in, the quiet broken only by faint classical music drifting from the ballroom. Alexander gazes at Emma, his eyes blending admiration with curiosity. Tonight, she's made him forget the burdens of being a single-dad millionaire, but her vague mention of a millionaire dad and her distant look when speaking of the past gnaw at him. "You did wonderfully," he says, his voice warm and low, trying to draw her into a gentle moment. Not everyone can step into this world and command attention. Emma offers a faint smile, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "I was just trying not to embarrass you," she replies, her tone soft but sharp, as if guarding her distance. Before Alexander can respond, a figure appears at the door. Marcus, an old friend and media mogul, steps in with a knowing smile. His sharp eyes sweep over Emma, lingering as if recognizing something. "Alexander, I didn't expect such an intriguing companion," Marcus says, his voice low but laced with curiosity. Emma's hands tighten, a flash of panic crossing her face, though she quickly regains composure. Alexander frowns, sensing the tension in the air. "Marcus, this is Emma," he introduces, his voice even but wary. Marcus nods, but his gaze stays fixed on Emma. "Have we met before?" he asks, his tone soft, as if probing a buried memory. Emma stiffens, her eyes darting away. "I don't think so," she replies, her voice quiet but firm. Marcus raises an eyebrow, his smile sharpening. "How odd. I could swear I saw you about 5 years ago at a Hamptons party. You were with a millionaire dad caught in a major scandal. What was his name? Charles Grayson, right?" Marcus's words land like a stone shattering a still lake, stopping Alexander's heart. He looks at Emma, awaiting an explanation, but she lowers her head, her fingers gripping the edge of her gown. "You're mistaken," she says, her voice trembling slightly, yet the resolve in her eyes can't mask her fear. A torrent of conflicting emotions surges within Alexander. Emma, the woman he's begun to care for, is now tied to a scandal and a mysterious millionaire dad. He recalls her earlier mention of a millionaire dad, and unease grows within him. "Emma, what's going on?" he asks, his voice low but piercing. Unable to hide his suspicion, Emma lifts her eyes to meet his, but instead of answering, she deflects. "I don't know that man. Marcus is just stirring things up," she says, but her voice lacks conviction. Marcus chuckles softly, shrugging. "Maybe I'm wrong, but you know, memory can be a funny thing," he says, then turns away, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. Emma rises as if desperate to escape the room. "I need some air," she mutters, hurrying out. Alexander follows, his heart pounding, torn between attraction and doubt. In the hallway, soft light illuminates Emma's face, highlighting her fragile yet resilient beauty. "Emma, tell me the truth," Alexander says, his voice almost pleading. "What's your connection to that man? Why did Marcus say that?" Emma turns, her eyes filled with pain, but resolute. "I'm not who you think," she says, her voice quivering. "But I'm not here to ruin you or anyone." Her words, though sincere, only deepen Alexander's confusion. He recalls their dance, her body close to his, her gaze stirring his heart. But now, those moments are clouded by suspicion. As a single dad millionaire, Alexander has learned to shield himself and Lily from threats. But Emma doesn't feel like a threat. She's a puzzle he can't solve. "If you won't explain, I can't trust you," he says, his voice firmer, though his heart aches at the sight of her eyes. Emma takes a deep breath, her gaze sweeping over him, as if wrestling with herself. "Some things aren't easy to share, Alexander," she whispers, then turns away, leaving him standing alone in the hallway. As Emma re-enters the ballroom, Alexander doesn't follow immediately. He lingers, his mind reeling. Marcus, with his cruel curiosity, has planted a seed of doubt, and it's taking root. He thinks of Lily, his duty as a single dad millionaire, and wonders if he's letting emotion cloud his judgment. Emma, with her sincerity and mystery, has made him feel alive like never before. But if she's truly linked to a scandal, can he take the risk? He recalls the business card Emma picked up and the strange text she saw on her phone. Is it all coincidence, or is she part of a larger game? In the ballroom, Emma tries to blend into the crowd, but her eyes dart around, as if fearing someone's watching. She thinks of Marcus, his words, and her heart tightens. Charles Grayson, that name, is a scar from a past she's tried to bury. She doesn't want to drag Alexander into her darkness, but his genuine gaze makes her waver. She entered his world for money, but now she feels a connection she can't deny. Yet the business card and cryptic text remind her that her past won't let go easily. Alexander finally returns to the ballroom, his eyes seeking Emma in the crowd. She's there, chatting with a guest, but he sees the strain in her smile. He wants to trust her, to hold on to the warmth she brings. But Marcus's words and Emma's silence have cracked their budding bond. As he approaches, Emma meets his gaze, her eyes a mix of hope and fear. "Can we talk later?" she asks, her voice soft but earnest. Alexander nods, but inside, a question looms. Who is Emma Lane, and what secret threatens to tear apart their fragile connection? Rain pounds heavily on the large glass windows of Alexander Hart's office, the single dad millionaire, in the heart of Manhattan. The morning is bleak, the sky a sullen gray, mirroring the turmoil in his heart. After last night's gala, Marcus's words about Emma Lane's involvement in a scandal with another millionaire dad still haunt him. The mysterious business card Emma found, paired with the cryptic text on her phone, "You've gone too far," leaves Alexander unable to shake the feeling that she's hiding something. He sits behind his desk, his gaze drifting to a framed photo of Lily, his young daughter, and an old picture of his late wife, Eleanor. His heart, once stirred by Emma's sincerity, is now torn by doubt. As a single-dad millionaire, he's learned to shield his world, but Emma, with her fierce yet enigmatic eyes, is unraveling every defense. In her cramped, run-down apartment on the city's outskirts, Emma is far from calm. She stares at the business card, its words, "Don't trust appearances," making her heart race. Marcus's comments at the gala unearthed memories she's fought to bury, and the strange text feels like a hunter closing in. She doesn't want to drag Alexander into her past, but the warmth in his eyes, the way he speaks of Lily, has shaken her resolve. She agreed to be his date for the money, but now a deeper feeling is growing, one that terrifies her. She knows she should walk away to protect them both, but her heart refuses to listen. Back at the office, an employee steps in, placing an unmarked envelope on Alexander's desk. He frowns, opens it, and the handwritten words inside make him freeze. "Emma Lane knows the truth about Eleanor. Don't let her fool you." His pulse surges, blood rushing to his head. Eleanor, the wife he adored, died 5 years ago in a car accident, leaving him and Lily in unrelenting grief. The thought that Emma, the woman he's begun to trust, could be tied to Eleanor feels like a betrayal. He clutches the letter, his eyes darkening. As a single-dad millionaire, he's no stranger to schemes, but this time his emotions are caught in the crossfire of truth and lies. Unable to wait, Alexander calls Robert Klein, a private investigator who's helped him vet business rivals. Robert, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s, arrives at the office that morning. Alexander slides the letter across the desk, his voice low but firm. "Dig into Emma Lane. I need to know who she is and why this letter mentions my wife." Robert nods, jotting notes, though a flicker of concern crosses his face. "If she's tied to Eleanor, you need to brace for things you might not want to hear," he says, his tone heavy. Alexander clenches his fists, struggling to contain his anger. He doesn't want to believe Emma's a liar, but the letter and Marcus's words have planted seeds of doubt too deep to ignore. Meanwhile, Emma resolves to confront Alexander. She can't bear the thought of him doubting her without knowing the truth. She heads to his tower, her coat soaked from the rain, her heart pounding as she steps into the elevator. When she reaches his office, Alexander is by the window, his gaze distant. He turns, and the moment their eyes meet, tension crackles between them. "Emma, why are you here?" he asks, his voice colder than usual. Emma takes a deep breath, steadying herself. "I know what you're thinking after last night. I'm not the person Marcus described," she says, her eyes earnest but laced with pain. Alexander studies her, his heart yearning to believe, but the letter on his desk looms like an unyielding warning. Before he can respond, Robert enters, carrying a thin file. He glances at Emma, his eyes probing, then turns to Alexander. "I have done some preliminary digging on Ms. Lane," Robert begins, his voice steady but sharp. 6 years ago, she worked for a New York charity called Hope's Light. That organization was connected to Eleanor Hart. Alexander feels the blood drain from his face. Hope's Light was Eleanor's passion, a charity for struggling children. The idea that Emma might have known Eleanor, or worse, been involved in her death, leaves him reeling. "What did you do there?" he demands, his voice trembling with anger and hurt. Emma steps back, her eyes wide with panic. "I was just a volunteer," she says, her voice soft but resolute. "I didn't know Eleanor, not the way you're thinking." But her words can't pierce the doubt in Alexander's gaze. Robert presses on, his tone devoid of warmth. "Hope's Light was investigated for suspected financial fraud. Some claimed Eleanor knew something, and her accident might not have been an accident." Robert's words strike like a blade, cutting deep into Alexander's heart. He looks at Emma, the warmth in his eyes replaced by cold suspicion. Emma feels her world crumbling. She wants to explain, to say she was just a young volunteer who left before the scandal broke, but Alexander's gaze chokes her words. "I'm not your enemy," she whispers, her voice trembling. "But if you don't trust me, I'll leave." She turns, hurrying out of the office, leaving Alexander frozen, still gripping the letter. He wants to call her back, to believe she's innocent. But the pieces, the letter. Marcus's claims, Robert's findings, paint a picture he dreads facing. In her apartment, Emma curls up on a chair, tears staining her face. She thinks of Alexander, of the suspicion in his eyes, and her heart aches. She didn't want to fall for him, didn't want a single dad millionaire in her life, but he broke through, and now she's paying the price. She pulls out the business card, staring at "Don't trust appearances," and recalls the cryptic text. Someone knows her past, and they're trying to destroy her. She doesn't know if it's Marcus or someone else, but she feels trapped in a game she can't win. At his office, Alexander stares out the window, the rain relentless. He thinks of Eleanor, Lily, and Emma. As a single dad millionaire, he's built walls around his heart, but Emma cracked them. Yet the revelations about Hope's Light and the mysterious letter make him wary of taking risks. He calls Robert, his voice resolute. "Dig deeper. I need the truth about Emma and Eleanor." Robert nods, though his eyes betray unease. "If she's linked to Eleanor's death, are you sure you want to know?" he asks. Alexander doesn't answer, but his heart pounds as if he's standing on the edge of an abyss. As Emma leaves the tower, she doesn't notice a shadowy figure trailing her, their phone flashing with a new message. She's getting suspicious. Don't let her near the truth. Emma, caught in the rain, feels a chill race down her spine. She doesn't know who's watching, but she senses her past, and a secret tied to a millionaire dad is coming back to claim its debt. The storm rages through Manhattan, winds howling down empty streets, as if bent on swallowing every trace of light. Emmeline stands before an abandoned warehouse on the city's edge, her heart pounding in her chest. Rain soaks through her thin coat, but her eyes remain resolute, even as fear gnaws at every breath. She clutches the old photo found inside the mysterious business card, a woman who looks like Eleanor, Alexander Hart's late wife, standing beside an unknown man. The text "You can't hide forever" and Marcus's warning about a scandal tied to a millionaire dad have driven her here, to a place she believes holds the truth about her past and Alexander's. She doesn't want to pull him into her darkness, but she knows only the truth can salvage the fracturing bond between them. Alexander, the single dad millionaire, sits in his car not far away, his eyes darkening as he watches Emma enter the warehouse. The cryptic letter, linking Emma to Eleanor, combined with the investigator Robert's findings about Hope's Light, has left him restless. He'd asked Emma to meet him, but when she insisted on bringing him to this place, a wave of unease washed over him. As a single dad millionaire, he's faced countless schemes, but now he's unsure if Emma is a victim or a mastermind. He thinks of Lily, his little girl, and wonders if following Emma was a mistake. Yet her eyes, mysterious yet magnetic, hold a pull he can't resist. Emma steps into the warehouse, the dim space lit only by faint beams piercing through a rusted, hole-ridden roof. The air is thick with the stench of mold and dust, but she presses forward. She's been here before, years ago, as a volunteer for Hope's Light. A hazy memory guides her to a shadowed corner where she recalls an old safe. Kneeling, her trembling hands search until they graze a dusty metal box. Inside lies a thin stack of documents, handwritten notes, and the seal of Hope's Light. Her heart races as she flips through the pages, the truth cutting like a blade. The charity funneled millions into secret accounts, and Eleanor Hart, Alexander's wife, seemed to have uncovered it before her death. Alexander enters the warehouse, his tall figure looming in the shadows. He looks at Emma, his eyes a mix of worry and suspicion. "What did you find?" he asks, his voice low but sharp. Emma looks up, her gaze heavy with pain, yet unwavering. "You need to see this," she says, handing him the documents. Alexander scans the pages, his face hardening as Eleanor's name appears alongside notes about a single dad millionaire orchestrating the fraud. A handwritten line stops him cold. Eleanor knew too much. She had to be stopped. His blood runs cold. Eleanor, the woman he loved, may not have died in an accident, but because of a secret tied to his own world. "What is this, Emma?" Alexander demands, his voice trembling with anger and grief. "Did you know about this from the start?" Emma shakes her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I was just a volunteer," she says, her voice breaking. "I left Hope's Light before it all happened, but I heard rumors that Eleanor was investigating someone, a millionaire dad. I didn't know if it was you or someone else." Her words, though sincere, can't quell the storm in Alexander's heart. He thinks of the years after Eleanor's death, raising Lily alone, and the idea that Emma might have known the truth all along feels like a betrayal. "If you're innocent, why bring me here?" he asks, his voice icy. Emma takes a deep breath, fighting for composure. "Because I want you to know the truth, no matter how much it hurts," she says, her eyes pleading. "I don't want you to live with doubt, like I've lived with my past." But before Alexander can respond, a figure appears at the warehouse door. A tall, gaunt man, his face cloaked in shadow, steps forward, his voice low and chilling. "Ms. Lane, you really don't know when to stop," he says, holding a phone that glints in the dark. Emma freezes, recognizing the voice, the one behind the threatening text. Alexander steps in front of her, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" he demands, his voice firm. The man chuckles, his gaze flickering to the documents in Alexander's hand. "I'm the one who knows everything about Hope's Light, and Eleanor," he says. "If you want to keep your reputation, single dad millionaire, hand over those papers. Otherwise, the world will know you were tied to the fraud that cost your wife her life." His words hit like a fist, forcing Alexander back a step. He glances at Emma, doubt clouding his eyes, but she shakes her head, her expression frantic. "I don't know him," she whispers, her voice trembling. But as the man steps closer, Emma notices a horrifying detail. The ring on his hand matches the one worn by the man in the old photo, standing beside Eleanor. Alexander grips the documents, his heart pounding. He doesn't know if this man is telling the truth or just an opportunist, but the thought that he, a single dad millionaire, could be linked to a crime fills him with dread. He thinks of Lily, her innocent eyes, and knows he can't let this secret destroy their family. "If you want these papers, tell me the truth," he says, his voice steady but edged with a tremor. The man smirks, his eyes cold. "The truth? Eleanor died because she dug too deep, and Ms. Lane here is heading down the same path." Emma feels fear tighten around her chest. She doesn't want Alexander dragged into her darkness, but she can't let this man win. She steps forward, her voice shaky but defiant. "If you know everything, why are you afraid of these documents?" she challenges, her eyes blazing. The man's eyes narrow, and in that moment she realizes he doesn't just want the papers. He wants her silenced. Alexander pulls her back, his gaze filled with worry. He doesn't know if she's a victim or complicit, but he can't let her face this danger alone. The air in the warehouse grows stifling, as if the storm outside is seeping in. The man steps back, his eyes glinting with menace. "You have one day to hand over the documents, or you'll both regret it," he says, then vanishes into the shadows. Emma trembles, her eyes meeting Alexander's, but the warmth between them is gone. "I don't want you to get hurt," she says, her voice choked with emotion. Alexander stares at her, his heart torn. He wants to trust her, but the documents, the stranger's threats, and the secrets about Eleanor leave him uncertain. As they leave the warehouse, the rain falls relentlessly, as if trying to wash away all hope. Emma clutches the old photo, knowing this secret doesn't just involve her, but Alexander and his past. In the car, Alexander looks at her, his eyes heavy with pain. As a single dad millionaire, he's built an empire, but now he risks losing everything: his reputation, his trust, and, perhaps, his heart. Midnight envelops Alexander Hart's Manhattan penthouse, the silence broken only by the soft patter of rain against the windows. Alexander, the single dad millionaire, sits in an armchair, his somber gaze fixed on the documents from the warehouse. The pages filled with notes about Hope's Light and Eleanor, his late wife, twist like a blade in his heart. The mysterious man's threats, coupled with Emma's old photo, Eleanor standing beside a stranger, rob him of sleep. As a single dad millionaire, he's built walls to protect Lily and himself, but Emma Lane, with her sincerity and enigma, is shaking everything. He clutches the business card inscribed with "Don't trust appearances," wondering if he's caught in a conspiracy or merely a victim of the past. In her small apartment, Emma trembles as she packs a few belongings. She knows she can't stay in Manhattan any longer. The old photo, the threatening texts, and Alexander's doubting eyes at the warehouse have made it clear that her past, though innocent, will always hunt her. She was a covert journalist, investigating Hope's Light 6 years ago, never imagining it would lead her to Alexander, a single dad millionaire who stirs her heart. She wants to flee, but the image of Lily's radiant smile and Alexander's warm gaze holds her back. She can't leave without revealing the truth. Taking a deep breath, she resolves to face him one last time. At the penthouse, Emma nods, her coat drenched from the rain. Alexander opens the door, his eyes flashing with surprise but guarded. "What do you want, Emma?" he asks, his voice low, masking his pain. Emma steps inside, her gaze steady despite her trembling heart. "I need you to hear me, just this once," she says, her voice soft but earnest. Alexander crosses his arms, his eyes probing, but he nods, gesturing for her to sit. The air between them is heavy, as if every moment, from the gala to the warehouse, is converging, awaiting resolution. Emma takes a deep breath, her eyes sweeping the room, lingering on Lily's framed photo on the table. "I'm not who you think," she begins, her voice quivering. "I was a journalist, investigating Hope's Light 6 years ago. I knew about the shady funds, but I left before it all unraveled. I didn't know Eleanor, but I heard she was trying to expose someone, a millionaire dad." Alexander stiffens, his eyes darkening. He thinks of the cryptic letter, Robert's words, and feels anger rising. "So you came to me to investigate? Was this all a game?" he asks, his voice cutting. Emma shakes her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "Maybe at first," she admits, her voice choking. "I heard about you, a single dad millionaire tied to Hope's Light, and thought you might be behind it. But then I met you, met Lily, and everything changed. I love you, Alexander, even though I didn't want to." Her confession, raw and aching, stops him cold. He wants to push her away, to protect his heart, but her eyes, filled with hurt and hope, hold him captive. "If you love me, why didn't you tell me the truth from the start?" he asks, his voice soft but laden with pain. Emma pulls the old photo from her bag, placing it on the table. "I found this in the business card," she says, her voice trembling. "The man with Eleanor isn't you. I think it's Charles Grayson, the one Marcus mentioned. I don't know why Eleanor was involved with him, but I believe she was innocent." Alexander stares at the photo, his heart aching at Eleanor's gentle smile. He thinks of the years after her death, raising Lily alone, and the thought that Eleanor might have hidden something feels like another betrayal. Together, they open the warehouse documents, turning each page with care. The handwritten notes unveil a horrifying truth. Hope's Light wasn't just a charity, but a front for a money laundering network, and Eleanor had uncovered it. One line freezes Alexander. Eleanor took documents to protect Lily. She wanted Hart to be suspected. His blood runs cold. Eleanor, the woman he loved, seemed to have deliberately left evidence implicating him as the single dad millionaire behind the fraud, all to shield Lily from dangerous enemies. "She did it to save our daughter," Alexander whispers, his voice breaking, eyes blurring with tears. Emma gently touches his hand, her eyes filled with empathy. "Eleanor loved you and Lily," she says softly. "She knew if you were suspected, the real culprits wouldn't target Lily." Alexander looks at her, his heart torn between pain and relief. For 5 years, he's carried guilt, believing he failed to protect Eleanor. But now he knows she sacrificed everything for their family. Emma, once a journalist investigating him, has brought him the truth, and he can't deny his feelings for her. Lily, awakened by a nightmare, shuffles into the room, her sleepy eyes blinking at her father and Emma. "Daddy, who's she?" she asks, her voice innocent. Alexander smiles, pulling Lily into his arms, his gaze softening as he looks at Emma. "This is Emma, someone very special," he says, his voice warm. Emma smiles, her heart swelling at the bond between father and daughter. She knows she's given her heart to Alexander, despite the threats of her past. The menacing texts and the mysterious man at the warehouse still lurk, but this moment, with Alexander and Lily, sparks hope. They resume reviewing the documents, and a final note stops them cold. Grayson knows the truth. He won't stop. Charles Grayson, the man in the photo, seems to be the mastermind behind the fraud, Eleanor's death, and the threats to Emma. Alexander grips Emma's hand, his eyes resolute. "We'll find him," he says, his voice firm. Emma nods, her eyes a mix of fear and determination. She knows this truth will lead them into danger, but she can't turn back when Alexander and Lily have become part of her. As Lily drifts back to sleep in Alexander's arms, Emma looks at him, her heart racing. She entered his life as a journalist, but now she's here for love. Alexander meets her gaze, and in his eyes she sees forgiveness and a silent promise. They say nothing, but their connection is stronger than ever. Yet in Emma's bag, her phone buzzes, a new message glowing. "You found the documents. Now the game begins." She hides her fear, but she knows Grayson, or someone else, is closing in. Dawn breaks over Manhattan, soft light filtering through the grand windows of the ballroom where the gala once unfolded. Alexander Hart, the single dad millionaire, has transformed this space into a private haven for himself, Emma Lane, and Lily. After days of doubt and danger, the warehouse documents, the old photo, and the threatening texts have brought them to the brink of truth. Emma stands quietly, her heart pounding, her eyes sweeping the room where she first entered his life as a stranger. The business card with "Don't trust appearances" is now just a memory, but the shadow of Charles Grayson, the man in the photo, looms like an unseen threat. Alexander, in a simple yet elegant suit, looks at her, his eyes blending resolve with a pain that's begun to heal. They spent a long night in the penthouse, poring over the documents and confronting secrets about Eleanor, Alexander's late wife. Emma, once a journalist investigating him, became the one to unveil the truth. Eleanor deliberately left evidence implicating Alexander to protect Lily from those behind Hope's Light's fraud. But the final message, Grayson knows the truth, he won't stop, thrust them into a race against time. With the help of Detective Robert, Alexander tracked Grayson, and now he stands before Emma, ready to face the final chapter of their story. Alexander takes Emma's hand, leading her to the center of the ballroom, where early light glimmers on the polished wooden floor. "Emma, for 5 years I lived with guilt, believing I failed to protect Eleanor." He begins, his voice low but earnest. "But because of you, I know the truth. And that truth isn't about me." Emma gazes at him, her heart racing, waiting. Alexander takes a deep breath, his eyes flashing with determination. "I'm not the single dad millionaire behind the fraud. It was Charles Grayson, Eleanor's former partner. She made sure I'd be suspected so Grayson and his allies wouldn't target Lily." His revelation sweeps away the last traces of doubt in Emma's heart, like a cleansing breeze. She recalls the old photo, Grayson's face, and the threatening texts. It all makes sense. Grayson manipulated Hope's Light, and when Eleanor uncovered it, he staged her death as an accident. A tear rolls down Emma's cheek, not from pain, but from relief. "I was afraid you were that man," she whispers, her voice breaking. "I feared I'd fallen for the wrong person." Alexander smiles, his eyes tender. "You didn't, Emma," he says, his voice warm. "You showed me I could trust again, love again." He kneels, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket, revealing a sparkling diamond ring. Emma gasps, covering her mouth, her eyes blurring with tears. "Emma Lane, from the moment you walked into my life, you changed everything," Alexander says, his voice trembling with emotion. "I don't promise you the world, but I promise to give my world to protect you and Lily. Will you marry me?" Time seems to pause, and Emma, her heart pounding, feels every wall she's built around herself crumble. She thinks of her lonely days, her scarred past, and realizes that Alexander, this single dad millionaire, is not just the man she loves, but her true home. "Yes," she whispers, her voice shaky but certain. "I'll marry you." Alexander rises, pulling her into his arms, holding her tightly as if afraid she might vanish. Emma leans into him, feeling a safety and warmth she's never known. They stand there, bathed in dawn's light, like two final puzzle pieces finding each other after a stormy journey. But their moment isn't complete, as tiny footsteps echo from the doorway. Lily, in pale pink pajamas, bounds in, her bright eyes sparkling at the sight of her father and Emma. "Daddy, Emma's here!" she squeals, launching into Alexander's arms. He lifts her, smiling, and looks at Emma with meaning. "Lily, would you like Emma to stay with us forever?" he asks gently. Lily nods eagerly, hugging Emma, and Emma's heart melts. "I want her to be my mommy," Lily says, her voice innocent but heartfelt. Emma laughs, tears streaming, and holds Lily tightly, knowing she's found not just love, but a family. They sit together, Lily nestled in Emma's lap, as Alexander shares a simple tale of love and truth with his daughter. But a small part of him remains vigilant. Robert reported Grayson's arrest at dawn, confessing to his crimes, yet the last text on Emma's phone, "The game begins," still unsettles him. He glances at Emma, her face radiant as she plays with Lily, and chooses to keep this secret to himself. He'll protect them, no matter the cost. As dawn's light floods the room, Alexander takes Emma's hand, his eyes gleaming with hope. They've overcome doubt, danger, and dark secrets to find each other. Emma, once a journalist probing his life, is now part of his family, and Lily, with her sunlit smile, binds them together. Azor, Alexander thinks of Eleanor, and for the first time, he feels her smiling from somewhere beyond. content that he's found new happiness. They leave the ballroom, stepping onto Manhattan streets, where the rain has ceased, and a new light spreads. Emma holds Lily's hand, Alexander by their side, looking every bit a true family. But as they walk, Emma's phone buzzes in her bag, a new message glowing. Grayson didn't act alone. Emma doesn't notice, but Alexander catches a glimpse, his eyes flickering with tension. He squeezes her hand, resolved to guard this happiness, even if darkness returns. Share this story with friends in America to spread the emotion, and stay tuned to uncover the next mysteries in the journey of the single dad millionaire and his destined love.